Good morning and welcome everybody here this autumn feeling Tuesday. Welcome board members and Malcolm, Ali and Simone. Can we start with apologies, please? We've got an apology from the Mayor. So I'll make any other apologies? No? Okay, so we need to move that the apology from the Mayor be accepted and a leave of absence granted from the meeting. Ron, you move that. Seconder, Ernie. Thank you. Public forum, no one here from public forum. We'll move on to notifications of items not on the agenda. Anyone have any of those?
Yeah, I have quite a few on up for the agenda that were declined, but I don't feel that the management report has covered them. So there's a few of them, especially flood prevention, the town creek, the levels of service at parks and reserves, unfinished flood damage from 3 years ago, potholes on metal and sealed roads, overhanging and dangerous trees in the district, and roadside vegetation. I read the report twice and I'm not satisfied with what was in it.
Thanks, Ernie. They're actually all mentioned on page 81 on the decision items from the minutes, and it shows their progress as still being in progress. We'll probably get to that further on in the meeting, I think. So we'll add those. Any conflicts of interest from anybody? No conflicts? Okay, moving on to confirmation of minutes. On page 5. Can we move that the Dannevirke Community Board confirms the minutes for the meeting held on the 15th of December 2025 be confirmed as a true and accurate record of the meeting?
I'll move that.
Terry, move that. Alison, second. Thank you. Taurua District Council report, page 13. Do we have any discussions? Do we want to go through that page by page, everybody? Page 13. Page 14. Page 15.
Yeah. Are we seeking, it says in here that we're seeking valuations and everything of properties. When will those potentially be listed for a bit of public knowledge?
We'll just have a look at things. I'll give Malcolm my copy.
There's probably two numbers on there as well. There'll be one right and one.
Oh, you haven't, might have that. Oh,
So which pit?
that one there.
Yeah, okay.
It's still different to mine.
If we can just have an update next month or 2 months' time, we'll be fine. Oh, okay. It hasn't been made yet. Okay.
Page 16.
Paragraph numbers, that would be helpful.
10.2. It says here that from July there's been 17 abandoned vehicles. Does that include the ones that stay in Eastern Street and News Street? That have been parked there for more than a year?
That's a granular level of detail really that we clearly don't have.
No. Well,
That is a level of granular detail really which clearly we don't have at this table. I'll have to take more advice on it,
correct.
assuming that's a good use of officers' time.
Page 17. 18. 19. 20. 21. 22. 23. 24.
Has there been a time set for the 33 York Street purchase, or is it?
That is a confidential matter. I'm not prepared to address it at this meeting.
Okay.
And 25. I'll move a motion that the report from the Tauranga District Council meeting held the 17th of December be received. All
Yep.
those in favour?
Oh.
Mover? Any? Seconder? Anyone? Ron, thank you, Ron. Okay, moving on to item 8, the allocations and appointments of portfolios. Ali, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a usual agenda item for the start of each triennium. So once the council delegates authority to the board to make appointments and all that, then the board would normally consider which appointments it's going to make. So we have usually the chairpersons appointed to the Road Safety Group, the Emergency Management Committee Welfare Response Committee, and there's a number of other liaison representatives that the board usually makes to community groups, which can be added to, you know, during your term if there's more community groups that you feel would be good to liaise with. But other than that, I'll take the report as read. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, this the community board have a representative on the emergency management group, and I don't know whether that's
Yes, that's listed, 1.4.
0.4, Terry. Oh, sorry, 1.4. Right. So, and Chair Nicola, there is a meeting this Thursday. I was the representative for the previous term. So there is a meeting this Thursday at 11 o'clock. It may pay to talk to Pete Sinclair about that. Yeah.
Thanks, Terry. Can we add a couple more here now, or is this the right time? So I just would like to add, after discussions with Terry, the community car. That was a community board initiative originally, so Terry has offered to be the representative for the community car. That's right, isn't it? And also an iwi representative. He's offered to do that as well, if everyone's happy with that.
Yeah, I was going to suggest iwi because I spent last Monday driving around with one of them, checking on all the maraes around the district, so
Yep.
it would be good.
So we'll move this report, right page. Can we have a mover for the report? Alison, seconder? Terry? Okay. We've got a few actually, sorry. Let's go back a step.
Madam Chair, could I just clarify that iwi, what is actually the role?
I guess that, you know, we make contact with our iwi partners, and just recently I had the privilege of, well, I was requested to go and talk to the komatua of Kahungunu, for example.
So
And there's an ongoing discussion going on there at the moment anyway.
So a liaison role.
Liaison role, yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
Thank you. So we'll move that the report from the Manager of Democracy Services dated the 22nd of January 2026 concerning the appointments and allocation of portfolios be received. We'll do this all as one motion. That the Dannevirke Community Board makes appointments of board representatives as follows. That Chairperson Nicola Phillips be appointed as the Dannevirke Community Board's representative on the Road Safety Group. That Nicola Phillips be appointed as the Dannevirke Community Board's representative on the Emergency Management Committee, Welfare Response. That Chairperson Nicola Phillips be appointed as the Dannevirke Community Board's representative on the Civic Honours Selection Panel. That the Dannevirke Community Board makes the following appointments of liaison representatives to community organisations. Dannevirke Brass Band is Ron Wallace. Dannevirke Pipe Band is Ron Wallace. Dannevirke Chamber of Commerce is Councillor Alison Amboy. Taurui Community Youth Service is Councillor Alison Amboy and Terry Hines. Dannevirke and District AMP Association, Ernie Christensen. Dannevirke Return Services Association, Ron Wallace. Dannevirke Host Lions, Terry Hines. Dannevirke Multi-Sport Complex, Nicola Phillips. Taurua REAP, Terry Hines. Friends of the Dannevirke Domain, Ron Wallace. Plus the two new ones we've got. So the mover was Alison. That's right, and the second is Terry. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? No, it's moved. Thank you. So we'll move on to the Dannevirke Community Board budget update. Alison, Ellie, do you want to talk on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report outlines the state of your budget and seeks your agreement to hold another round of funding for the portion of your unspent discretionary grants amount. You'll recall that you set aside a portion of your annual budget to be used for discretionary grants, and you've got approximately $3,500 left of that portion should you wish to run another round of grants. And the rest of the budget is set out there, just noting what you'd plan to, events you'd plan to spend money on and what's still to come.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, just a question
Terry?
there. Yes, Ali, thank you for that. The WACRO award budget, which is approximately $3,000, that will come out of the new budget, new allocation, is that right?
So this budget is for the current financial year, which ends on 30th of June. Your WACRO awards are held after that date. So the new year's allocation is where that would come. You'll see I've noted here of how much you sort of plan to spend on the WACRO awards this year against what was actually spent. So that's outlined in 4.8.
Yep, thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? Alison?
Thank you, Chair Nicola. And thank you for this report, Ali. I'm just curious to understand why the Spring Festival budget is $1,500. I guess I'm just coming into the role quite new, so I'm just wondering why it went over budget last year and if there's a breakdown of expenses. You probably don't have the information right now, which I fully understand. That would be good to know. Thanks.
That expenditure encompassed the cost of printing the brochures and advertising, and it was slightly above what had been estimated. The estimates are based on what it cost the previous year to run.
Malcolm?
Through you, Chair. Councillor, my expectation is if you're over budget in one area, you'll have to find efficiencies elsewhere and come within the overall budget. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? I've just got one, and it could be just the way I've read it. 4.3. The dates there, the funding round opens and the funding round closes are the same date.
Yeah, well spotted. That was a test. That would open in March, close in April.
Thank you. I thought it might have been a typo. Okay, no other questions? No, so we've got 4 motions, so again, we'll take these all, no, we're going to do them separately. No, we can take them all as one, sorry. So the first one is that the report from the Manager of Democracy Services dated 9th of February 2026 concerning the Dannevirke Community Board budget be received. Second, that the Dannevirke Community Board notes the budget availability to hold a second grants round prior to 30th of June 2026. That the Dannevirke Community Board advertises the availability of the General Assistance Grant Scheme for 2026 and invites applications for funding. And that the closing date for applications be the 2nd of April 2026. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Terry, move. Seconder. Ernie, thank you. The next item is the... Pardon? Oh, sorry. All those in favour? Oh, against? Thank you, sorry. The WACRO, page 37, WACRO Memorial Youth Award. Open for discussions. Any questions? Anybody? Alison?
Thanks, Chair Nicola. Just wondering about how we can better engage with our rangatahi to be better involved with leadership opportunities within the community board beyond the WACRO award. I feel like it's really important to have that discussion, whether we take it offline or not. Be good to talk about. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe we take that to the next informal where we can sit round the table and work out some nuts and bolts. So we'll put that on the list. Any other questions about the WACRO? Terry?
Yeah, Chair Nicola, can I make a suggestion that we adopt the same timeframes as we did in 2025, which seemed to work very well? And as far as the judging goes, a similar format as well?
Yeah, I think they are all in our what we need to move and second in here. So if there's no other questions, we'll go straight on to that. That the report from the Democracy Service Officer dated 22nd of January 2026 concerning the WACRO Memorial Youth Awards be received. That the Dannevirke Community Board call for nominations for the WACRO Memorial Youth Award for 2025, with nominations opening 30th of March 2026 and closing on the 29th of May 2026. That the Dannevirke Community Board consider the membership of the judging panel and a guest speaker for the awards ceremony for decision at the next meeting of the board. Maybe that we can discuss that at our informal as well. And that the WACRO Memorial Youth Award ceremony be held in August or early September 2026, with the date and venue to be determined by the Dannevirke Community Board. So we'll take those all as one motion. If we can get a mover, Ron, and a seconder, Alison. All those in favour? Against? No, carried. Thank you. Okay. The next item is the management report, page 41. We'll open that for discussion. Anyone have any questions? Or do you want to go through it any page by page? Yep. So we'll go page 3.1.
Our responsibility for maintaining oversight of level of service on 3.1.
So you just want to note that, Ernie?
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's where we come into it with the decision action items. They sort of discuss most of those. Okay, so if there's no other questions for that report, I'll move that the report from the Democracy Service Officer dated 9th of February 2026 concerning the management report be received. Can I have a mover for that, please? I'll move that one. A seconder? Alison? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, now we jump to page 71, which is the report of the portfolio program project report. I'll open this up for discussions. Anyone have any questions? Terry?
Yeah, yes, on page 75, the Carnegie Centre or Carnegie Building. Is there any update on that yet? I know we've got it in our report, we reported on it, we questioned where we're at with it at that last meeting. Is there any further information on our earthquakes? Malcolm, maybe you can help with this.
Malcolm? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I don't recall Terry, so can I take that offline and come back to you? The Carnegie has come up a number of times and different things, so I'm just trying to put my finger on where we're quite at on it, and I can't. I'm sorry, but I'm happy to come back to the board. And yep. I mean, I do recall we've had a number of memos on buildings per se, of which the Carnegie obviously is one, but I can't quite remember the specifics of it, so apologies, Terry, I'll come back.
Any other questions on that report? Malcolm?
Just, I do recall, I know one of the issues that fall within the broader ambit of earthquake strengthenings is understanding what the new rules will be. That is yet to be determined. I understand government's still to put through the legislation, so that potentially could be impacting it as by way of, but in the same way it would also impact quite a lot of other buildings in the district. But I think that rings a slight bell to me. It may be until we know what the rules are going to be under the revised framework issued by or announced by Minister Pink. But they're not landed yet, if I recall, but I can check on that as well for you, Terry.
Thank you, Malcolm. There's a lot of public interest in that, what is likely to happen with a lot of our buildings, particularly in the CBD, of where we're at with that. Through you to Chair Nicola, maybe Malcolm, can you give us an update on where we're at with water well done? And I was going to ask questions in the report about the current water situation, what we're doing, the various, the telemetry and SCADA upgrade phase 2, and Dannevirke impounded pre-treatment. Those projects which are very much ongoing, I know, but can you give us an update on that? But particularly where we're at with the water well done, appointment of directors, etc. Is that possible to have an update? Thank you.
Yes, within the rounds of confidentially as I come to it, though, it's a pretty open process. Local Water Done Well is the name of the program, so that's the Wairarapa Tararua CCO that's been established. So there is quite an elaborate project team that has been established, which has been project managed by Catherine Merman on behalf of the 4 councils. She's based out of the South Wairarapa Council, but all 4 councils are contributing. There's a number of work streams which our team is contributing to. The asset transfer, debt transfer, people, work programs, so on and so forth, and that has got a lot of momentum. All working towards be able to have the CCO up and running by 1 July next year. So at this stage, they haven't said that I have a meeting with the chief executives this afternoon just to check in on the project with the steering group for it, reporting up to the stakeholders forum. The stakeholders forum, as I think I've reported for, has been established. They're well advanced on directors' appointment. They've had all interviews bar 1, I now believe, and I would expect that the director appointments will occur either in March or very early in April. I can't quite recall the date, but they're at that point. At that point, obviously, there will be a company, because you have to have a company to have directors, one of the issues will be at what point do they assume governance from their side of the company. Our focus here at Tararua is to ensure that there's a seamless transfer. I'm particularly concerned to ensure that we meet our good employer obligations to our staff, and that's all being worked through. So at this stage, it's rolling on. We continued on a day-to-day basis. We remain responsible for Three Waters delivery up until the close of the 30th of June next year. We continue to progress those that are consistent with the Water Services Delivery Plan, which was the plan, combined full council plan approved by the government, which we are required to implement. So projects that you see in the project report, such as telemetry, SCADA, the impounded supply, are all part of Three Waters' work and are tracking along as per planning, according to Hamish. They will, to the extent there's residual work needed by the time 1 July next year rolls around, they would, all things being equal, they would then transfer to governance of the new CCO. So at this stage, well, in summary, really, things have momentum, gaining momentum. There are established work groups. The board will soon be set up, after which you can expect the board would move to appoint a chief executive for the new company. And then it will get real momentum from at least the company side. We are contributing at all levels, as indeed are the 4 shareholding councils. I mean, if I want to say that from Tararua's point of view, my view, which I've made known to elected members and staff, we need to focus on 3 things. First of all, that we have an accurate asset list of our assets that will form part of the transfer agreement to the new CCO. Secondly, that debt transfer occurs to the CCO, and so that debt comes off our balance sheet, and that's a key part of the reforms, so that will free up headroom for us, bearing in mind the ratepayers are still, in the big scheme of things, pay for it all, but we need to make sure that we adequately transfer all necessary Three Waters related debt to the new CCO. And the final one is the staff situation. That is formally identifying the roles that are primarily related to Three Waters delivery and transferred to the CCO, and identifying staff whose functionality in terms of Three Waters is in part, and then coming to a view as to how that will be managed by us from an stranded overheads point of view. So all those things. Throughout that last one, Tararua remains the employer, pending resolution of those things, and as I say, the commitment that I have, and I can't imagine my success next week will have any difference with, is we will meet our contractual obligations and our statutory obligations as a good employer. So the other 3 key focus areas. Does that give you enough sense, Terry?
Yeah, thank you, Malcolm. Yes, so the CCO, will that be in place by July 26th or 27th?
That's a good question. I actually haven't been told a specific date. I think my own view, and there's a point I can clarify this afternoon in a meeting with the chief executives, but if you're appointing directors, by definition, you have to have a company to which the directors can be appointed. So legally, I would think it would be imminent. Even though our plan is to have it done by 1 July 26, I think it's likely to be done before that. So, because you can't, as I say, as a matter of law, directors must be appointed to a legal entity. The legal entity is the company. Therefore, the company must, by definition, be established first before you can do the appointment. So I'd imagine, given where we are on the interview selection process, which the Stakeholders Forum, is well along with, would be, I would think March, April potentially, but I haven't got the exact date on that. It's a good point, and I've been seeking clarification on that myself for a while. Yes, that's the final date, but it must by definition be earlier than that. I can and happy to let you know where that's at. I'm going to ask that question this afternoon of the project manager.
Thank you, Malcolm. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Ernie.
So going back to page 60, it says that the Dannevirke compounded supply is only being held at 7 metres. It used to be held at 9 metres. Is that why it's not leaking? Because they've dropped the level?
I can't answer that, Annie. I'm not
No,
an engineer, but I have every confidence that the team knows what they're doing. So if they've made a judgment that way, there'll be a good reason for it.
And also, going to page 81, the items like the high street footpaths, everything's in progress with our meetings only every 2 months. It's going to take another 2 months to get some answers, is that right?
That's the next report, Ernie, so we'll move on to
sorry.
that shortly.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Any other questions on the portfolio program report? If there's none, we'll move that the report from the Democracy Support Officer dated 4th February 2026 concerning the portfolio program project report be received. Can I have a mover, please? Ron, thank you, and a seconder. Terry, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, now on to the decision action items. I'd just like to say I think this is a great little report. Thank you very much for putting that together. So, questions? Ernie, no doubt you have some. This is your...
Yeah, well, with our meetings only being every 2 months, the concerns over the high street footpaths and all the other items that are there being pushed by the locals. So if we're not bringing it forward every meeting and wondering why it's work in progress, then I think I feel like I'm failing my duty, but I don't know how the other members feel. Like the signs that were done in on the main street coming into town, the workmanship was not up to scratch, and nothing's been done to fix it. Is it okay for volunteers to just go and do it like Terry and I were going to do?
I think the timeliness of the meetings has already been sorted, so we're going to run as it is for a while. We can look at that later on. As far as those signs go, I think we need to be a little bit careful. There's possibly already been some volunteers that fixed them in the first place, not council. So we just need to be a little bit careful there. The status is as it stands on this report. I do note that obviously we've had this change of date of meeting. So the Community Connections Committee have met, and I watched that live stream, and I am a little concerned that some of the items we have that were going to be talked about at that meeting weren't talked about, so I guess we need to bring that up. Terry, you got something?
Yeah, I have a question, and I think this is good to have this report and to see where we're at with the questions and the queries which the Community Board has made to Council. What I'd like to know, I mean, I'm taking into consideration that we've had Christmas intervening, but it's now 2 months since we raised these issues. What is a realistic time frame to expect these issues to be addressed? Is it going to be 2 months, or is it 3 months, or longer for our council staff? I mean, I want to be realistic about this. Malcolm, can you help us in this one?
When you say address, Terry, what do you mean? Do you mean a response?
We raised these queries, as
Yeah.
you can see listed in this report,
Yes.
and that was 2 months ago.
Yeah. So if the question, Terry, is a response to your query, then you make a reasonable point, and this is a new process for the team, to be frank, one which I was keen on, to ensure that these sorts of things didn't get dropped. So there's a learning process there. If in terms of addressing the physical matters, then that's a different thing, Terry, in the sense that we have to operate within approved budgets. Footpaths are particularly problematic in terms of budget items, so it's a matter of prioritisation about where things go. So in that regard, what the board may regard as addressing in a physical sense may not align with what is actually achievable with operational budgets. But I don't, it'll be different in different places depending on what the nature of the thing is. But the first point in terms of responding to the action point is a fair point, and we will need to put more attention to ensuring these are timely. It did go, reports did go up to the Community Connections Committee, but if the chair feels that they weren't properly addressed, then we can look into that. But no, the whole point of this decision action items, which has been introduced, by the way, across all committees, council and community boards, is to ensure that things don't get dropped. So I hear your point, Terry, we'll come back. Maybe we can also come back offline to provide information for your informal committee as well, and then follow that up with with the formal paper at the is it biennial? Not biennial, bi-monthly. Bi-monthly, yeah, not biennial, yeah. Bi-monthly meeting. So rather than wait 2 months, which I think is a fair point, Terry. Yeah.
As I said, Malcolm, it's not a criticism. It's just something that we need to tidy up. And as I say, it's 2 months, but bearing in mind that we've had Christmas, we've had December where very little gets done. But what are the timeframes we can expect as a board to get some answers? But I totally concur with what you're suggesting about maybe people coming to our informal meeting and informing us what is happening with these various projects. Thank you.
Through your chair. I certainly, you're perfectly entitled to criticism, Terry. It's constructive, so there's nothing wrong with that. In my view, from a governance perspective, that's entirely your role. So please don't feel reticent about that. You know, an expectation has been met, it should be set. So that's, I have no issue with that whatsoever. In fact, to me, that's you doing your job.
If it might help through you, Madam Chair, on page 45 of your agenda is a pretty detailed explanation about the funding for footpath maintenance and the reason why there isn't as much as one would hope for the amount of work we'd like to have done.
I mean, we're about to enter into the usual funding round with NZTA as well. My expectation is the funding situation for footpaths will not improve. The focus will be, roads.
Sure, Ron.
Through you, the Chair, I respect what you've just said there about this report. I think it's a great idea, fantastic. But that in progress, some of the stuff on here has been in progress for over 3 years. So when we get it by the public and ask the questions to us, so our answer now will be in progress. Because surely we can have some answers on these details that are here. Like, as Ernie keeps bringing up Eastern Street, I keep getting asked about how safe it is, safe now, to drive down to the local rubbish dump to get rid of your waste. So again, I'm confused. If we keep going back to the public, the ratepayers of Dannevirke, and we come up with this solution in progress, I probably know what you're going to say, but I think we need to be a bit more proactive because we are the community board making it better for the community, not to end up saying to everybody, looks like this is in progress. What do you think of that? Okay.
Yep. Look, I think that's entirely reasonable, Ron. It's my view. I would say that perhaps as an observation as the departing Chief Executive, that processes like this that are designed to bring forward a crisp statement of where one is at on particular things is a new thing for the council, and we need to bring greater discipline to bear on the granularity of the detail that's provided. So I hear the concern, and my view is I support your concern. Having simply saying in progress without a detailed, that column is fair enough. The column to focus on is progress notes. That should have the detail there to describe where that is, and so we're 80% through, or this has not happened, for that sort of thing. So I'm happy to take that back to the team and explain that they need to give more detail. That said, we need to, obviously we've got a line because of the emergency event last week, so there's an out of alignment thing there. But in principle, I can't in any way dispute what you're saying, Ron. In fact, I support it.
Ingranulated. That's a new word for my vocabulary.
Granular detail.
Yeah, well done. But, well, agree, if that is going to happen, you're leaving the ship now, but if that is going to be part of this discussion, and we do get that, we can say to Joe Bloggs, there it is, that's what's happening. And that's, as a community board, we just look like we're just sitting there clipping the ticket, and I do not like that. Thank you.
No, I hear you, Ron. And at the end of the day, we've got to remember we're in a local democracy governance situation. You're part of that framework, as indeed are councillors, obviously. And you need to, people need to know where their rates are going. They're getting good value. That's entirely reasonable. Yes, I have no issue with that at all. In terms of my handover, I mean, getting this in place took a little while, but we got there. In terms of my handover, that'll be my point of view to the Chief Executive. However, I think it's fair to say His Worship is equally adamant, in my view, that this process needs to be in place and properly do that. But, you know, it takes time to get into the role. The fact is we now have it, and once one has it, it's hard to not have it, if you get my drift.
Thank you. Ernie?
We just need to hope that it's not treated like a puppet show and we actually get some answers in the next 2 to 4 months, like if we're only going to get it every two months, because we keep getting it in the neck every day of the week from the public. And thank you, Malcolm, for your explanation. Yeah.
Chair, look, Ernie, you've heard the commitment, and this applies equally to council. I don't think it's helpful, though, Ernie, to use words or phrases like puppet show. That is not constructive. And we need to be here to remember who we're here for. And officers do the best that they can. They've got a lot of things to do. You're entitled to the explanation, but, you know, let's keep it at the right level.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Nicola. 2 points in that report I just want to report back on, since I'm actively involved with them. One is the lower domain and the deer park. I've actually been working very closely with our facilities people at council, and we should have a resolution on that very soon. Okay, so very much work in progress, but it is a very positive work. And the last point on that report, the Eastern Fountain in the upper domain, which is, of course, is now going to become a community board project. That too is very much a work in progress at the moment. We're progressing, working on how we can refurbish the fountain and get it back to its former glory and working order. So that definitely is happening. I'm working with people on that. So hopefully we can see some progress in the next few months.
Thank you, Terry. Right, so we've had some good constructive discussions over that, and I think we all agree that time is of the essence. So it would be ideal to have some feedback earlier. For example, we only wanted the maintenance schedule for the footpaths. It wasn't the costings and all that sort of thing. We wanted a maintenance schedule for that and the mowing. So I guess some of those things we can hopefully have before our next informal. We'll see what will happen there. Malcolm?
I hear you, Chair. I mean, these things are governed by contracts. We can give you, within the realms of commercial confidentiality, what the contract's level of service is. But going down to the granular detail of how a contractor is doing a specific thing on a specific day is probably pushing it, to be frank. But what we can give you is what is the agreed levels of service that ratepayers are paying for. And then I suppose more on top of that, I think what is a fair enough thing to ask for is, are we confident that the contract monitoring regime to ensure those levels of service are being addressed is appropriate, and where, for the sake of argument, because I don't know that this is so, where contracted levels of service are not being achieved, what the remediation program is to achieve that.
Thank you. Do we have any further discussions on this report? No. So on that, I will move that the report providing an update on decision action items be noted. Can I have a mover, please? Terry, a seconder. Ron, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, the next one is page 85. And that is the submission on simplifying local government proposal. I guess with the delay in the meeting, we've moved on slightly from here, and that submission has in fact been submitted because otherwise we would have missed the close-off date. So, do we still move this?
Receive the submission.
Okay.
essentially.
That's the copy of that is on pages 88 and 89 and 90. So Terry and I worked on that together and have put that forward. So here's hoping it makes a little difference. So can I move that the Dannevirke Community Board adopts the submission that has been submitted on the simplifying local government proposal for submission to the Dannevirke Department of Internal Affairs, which I submitted last week on the 19th of February. Can I have a mover? Ron, a seconder. Ernie, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Madam Chair, I just advised the board a similar paper is going to council tomorrow in respect of council's submission that was submitted last week as well.
Great, thank you. Sorry, Terry?
While we're on that matter, discussing that, Malcolm, can you give us any feedback have we had from government on timeframes, particularly with the disestablishment of regional councils, etc.? We've seen it's gone pretty dead in the media at the moment, and we've, as you say, we've done our submission, but it would be interesting or nice to know what's happening with the progress in this project.
Through you, Chair. Not a lot to add, Terry. I mean, it was, as you know, my view is it was a very dismal paper, very lightweight in my view. But we do have over the days, Thursday and Friday this week, there are meetings in Wellington for the sector and all sectors meeting. I think they call it on the Thursday and then we're on provincial on Friday, which we're a member of rural sector. Hopefully we'll get some input from either National Council who's met with Prime Minister, etc., and or ministers. I can't recall the agenda to do that. But I haven't seen, other than that, there's no detail. I do have an opportunity to sort of dig down into this wearing another hat in the weekend, and I might take that up. But at the moment, it's basically in the churn with DIA, and then we'll see what pops out. Remembering with Simplify seem to be more, this is me editorialising, I think, more of the testing the waters type submission. If we're going to do the RMA stuff, which is being done, and those two bills are before select committee, and we've submitted on that as well, and they will go through. And all things being equal, government has a majority, you expect those to go through. This was always pitched, as I understand from the government, as well, if we're doing that, what about cracking on with this as well? So I suppose a judgment has to be made, Terry, about whether they want to crack on, so to speak, or not. That's at large. Yeah.
I guess the one thing that concerned me, Malcolm, more than anything, was that there was a perception in that report or that discussion document that that we may be forming a united authority or a united council based on the Horizons Regional Council that we have, which doesn't give us the opportunity to form a regional or united authority on another area at this stage. And that was my concern in that report.
Through Chair, that is a very fair concern. The lack of detail around that paper, that discussion paper, is a concern. I think it's fair to say the assumption was that existing regional council boundaries would be the areas where some form of amalgamation would have to go through to occur. In our submission, we've made the view clear that this council at least, but we would apply the same rationale to others, should have optionality. In other words, choices about where to go. In the same way, the government that's doing this paper allowed that sense of choice through waters. Hence, we went to Wairarapa, not with colleague councils in our formal Horizons area. So we've made that point. Similarly, we've also made the point that, to be fair, the paper itself doesn't say this, but we've made it quite clear we don't think this should be a mechanism for mandated amalgamation against communities' wishes. There may be an efficiency argument if all the mayors at a combined territories board agreed that that was the way to do it and they've all been elected. But if there's not unanimous agreement around a combined territories board, and my experience of local government is over the many years, I would be highly surprised if that were to be the case, but you never know. Then the existing procedures around referenda should be retained because that's how communities express their preference. So this is why I say there's a lot of people that come to local government thinking it's very light and easy to do, need to be are very quickly awakened that life isn't that simple, that this isn't a corporate structure, this is a democratic structure where communities express their wishes through their elected members. So we've made those points, I think, relatively directly in our submission. I observe that notwithstanding the many arguments around efficiency and savings, actually savings from amalgamation are really modest, okay? You save a bit in governance, but governance is noise in the overall budgets, to be frank. You save a bit in back office, CEOs, again, to an uninformed observer that looks like a lot of money, but in relative budgets it's not. So you need to understand what you're entering into. I mean, there are many studies out of Auckland amalgamation. Yes, there's been savings, but it wasn't of the quantum, to be fair, the current Auckland Council has a formal program in place to find savings, but that is a different thing. That's not out of the amalgamation per se. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. Our view is that we agree in our submission with the government that there's a case for change of a kind. For example, we argue that shared services could be greatly improved if the incentives that work against having effective shared services were removed, and then you have accountability for delivery. We're looking at it through the lens of ratepayer affordability. What works best to achieve ratepayer value, but also preserve to the level a community wants democratic representation. So that's what we're trying to balance. So these things, as we pointed out, the government are not as straightforward as one might think. So hopefully we've said that in a constructive way. But we do think there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, one final question. Malcolm, you did touch on it, rates capping. Is there any update on the rates capping at this stage? A lot of ratepayers obviously will be interested to hear about that.
Yes, not that I'm aware of formally. The submissions for that closed off a week or so before the simplification one, if memory serves, early February. So there's no formal move forward other than the fact that the government has been very clear that it intends to introduce rates capping. So the submissions and the consultation on rates capping wasn't so much about whether we should do it or not, because do it is the view of the government at this stage. It was more about the methodology behind the formula to set the cap, which is around. So if memory serves, I think the idea is for the government to introduce legislation this side of the general election and to pass it, should they be re-elected, on the other side of the general election. But look, that's all subject to political judgment. But if the sector thinks that the rates capping regime is not proceeding, then my view is they need to think again. It is. So that's also how we look at things at the moment. What is not within the cap at the moment is, or at least as a stated government policy, is Three Waters capital investment, because I don't want to impede that that needed investment. There may well be a case to include roading infrastructure in that, in my view. That's not technically the case at the moment. The key point being one of the big drivers of cost to ratepayers is funding depreciation, and depreciation in the infrastructure space is substantial. So if you don't have infrastructure within the cap, then my view is it's probably manageable. That may not be the view of everybody, and I do declare that I was a member of the government's group that looked at this, so my views are not necessarily either the government's or anyone else's for that matter. But right now it's not. So again, there's a bit of work to be done in terms of the technical detail, because getting that formula correct will be mission critical. It's to do with GDP, inflation, and those sorts of things. But other than to say the government has not moved away, if anything, it's intensified its commitment to bring it forward. I have to say it's immensely popular as a thing. I just always say, be careful what you wish for.
Thank you, Malcolm. So we are now on to correspondence from Friends of the Domain. We've got a couple of reports there from them, one dated, one report, is it? 31st of August 2025, and another one through to 31st of January 2026. Does anyone have any questions on that? Ron?
No questions, but through you, the Chair. We had an informal meeting down there, which was very positive. With the setting up of the skate park and that, and they assure us, which is really cool, that the memory garden will be replaced, and the vibe that came out was forward and onwards, so that's cool. So maybe our grandchildren will get to play on it. So they informed me that they're going to start turning over the turf very shortly. So as a community board, and community board Ernie was there, we wish them well, so it's all go. Cheers.
That's great. Great to hear.
Also,
Ernie?
it sounds like the Friends of the Domain are organising coffee get-togethers and that with the members of the Māori sport, and also they're going to try and connect with the Lamison Trust to bring the whole three groups that are involved in the domain together. That's what we got out of the working bee on Sunday. Actually, I was at.
Yep, Ron.
And just an update with that, the Rose Garden is looking really brilliant, and the girls and guys are doing a fantastic job as a bunch of volunteers, if you could say. And they're reviving it rather well. Yeah, it's coming together.
No, that's great. It's good to see the three groups working together. That's awesome, because it's going to be a lovely welcoming place for people coming through our town. That's good. Okay, so if there's no other questions, can I move that the correspondence as listed be received from the Friends of the Domain, August 2025 and January 2026? Ernie, move it. Seconder. Ron, thank you. All those in favour? Against? None. Moved. What are we up to? Chairperson's remarks. I haven't really got too much. I just wanted to make a mention. I guess on behalf of the community, I'd just like to offer our thanks from the community board and the community, the way the recent weather event was held. I think in this instance we were extremely fortunate that we were not dealt the weather in full that was forecasted and that they had to make the decision on. However, having those valuable daylight hours meant that people could prepare. So well done to all involved at keeping our community of Te Aroha safe. Thank you. Number 11, items not on the agenda. So Ernie, you had a list from earlier. Some of those are maybe on that decision action items. Do you want to talk on those, or do we now ask for a report for our next informal, like that we want some answers for our next informal on those? What do you want to do?
Well, after spending all of last Monday from 10 o'clock onwards heading to Ohonga Road and helping cut trees off the road and bits and pieces like that. I think my main concern looking forward to another red alert event for weather events is the roadside tree problems. If we can just express how serious it is, there's a lot of rural roads where you can't stay left on the road with a stock truck and clear the trees. They are hanging down that badly that you've got to go on the wrong side of the road, which is Mangahay Roads 1, Waitahora Road. I've put CRMs in about it so that it is in the system, but I'm seriously looking forward to some work being done on it, because after spending 5 hours on a chainsaw helping the community and also the Alliance team as well, there was crews that we assisted on the way through as well, because I was having a drive around with one of the iwi health representatives, getting him out to see some clients and everything at Pongaroa, and visiting the 6 maraes in the district. That pretty much took up the whole day. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well done, Ernie. Not all superheroes wear capes. Just on the trees, I do note there was something mentioned in the Community Connections Committee, but I'll probably need some clarification. They had talked about the trees being looked at, but I'm not sure if that was all the trees in the district by the arborist or whether it was just parks and reserves. So we probably need some clarification on that one. Yeah, but trees were a biggie, absolutely. So we probably need to know if we can get some clarification on that tree maintenance. Ernie?
I think we've already spent a fortune on arborists. It's a lot of it, and there's been trees removed in the domain because they were dangerous. We knew 2 years ago they were dangerous. They've been breaking down. It's time just for some action, I think.
Can I just make...
Yeah, Malcolm?
Board, we do not have inexhaustible supplies of money, okay? So, and that's the cold hard reality of the world you live in. So therefore, prioritisation has to occur by the operational teams, and they have to decide that. So putting CRMs, in my view, is the absolute right thing to do. So it goes into the system and prioritisation can then occur. But they don't have teams of people sitting by waiting to do things. You know, there's a constant push of work, both from roads and all sorts of things. So I just, again, the suggestion that people are willfully not doing things is I push back on. I do not accept. What I do accept is people are trying to do the best job they can with the limited resources they have. I'm happy to go and investigate that, but ultimately choices have to be made and prioritisation has to occur.
Thanks, Malcolm. I think that the arborist has already been and gone, so he's done a report. No, it's not a current thing. That's what I was getting at. I just wasn't sure whether it was the whole of Te Arua. Okay, just parks and reserves. Okay. Anything further in that, Ernie? You're right? No? Okay, so on that, I will close the meeting at 10:05. I declare the meeting closed at 10:05.